So, USC, do these two or three things. I think you'll beat Nebraska on Saturday.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC. It's part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you are going to download this podcast, it's going to be free, and I'm going to appreciate your support. You can get into the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers, you can place a $5 bet. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. I know Nebraska fans, they love to brag about the black shirts, the defensive unit plays for the Cornhuskers. If you're not aware of their history, real briefly, it started back in the early to mid-'60s under Coach Bob Devaney. Basically, the defense came out. They wore these black pullovers, and it kind of took hold ever since then. And as the seasons went along, Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne, and even a few seasons after that, Nebraska was known for playing a really physical, tough brand of football, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And they kind of not trademark, but they really fell in love with the whole black shirt philosophy, the intimidation factor. We're going to see if they have that black shirt mentality on Saturday when they visit USC at the LA Coliseum. The Cornhuskers, they might not be in the hunt for a conference championship game this year, or even in the playoff picture. Neither is USC, so not throwing stones here. What I am saying, though, is Nebraska is sneaky good on defense. They give up just 102 yards per game on the ground, only roughly 200 yards per game through the air, and only 19 points per game. I mean, that's better than sneaky good. That's just flat out good. Ironically, USC offensively, they're sneaky good running the ball. They'd be less sneaky good if Coach Riley would, commit to running more. It's another story, but it's going to be interesting to see which wins out between Nebraska's run defense, USC's run offense. The goal for USC, just be balanced on offense. Don't throw the ball 50 times a game. It didn't work out for Miller Moss. And since you're starting a new quarterback, Jayden Maiava, I don't know if you really want him throwing it 50 times either. Typically, when you're throwing the ball that many times in a game, bad things tend to happen. More opportunities for bad things to happen. Not to mention, one of them would be getting hit in the backfield. I'm talking about Nebraska's defense and how USC can, do things to counteract it. Well, Nebraska has 25 sacks through 9 games this year. Just a tad under 3 per game. They're good. And we know USC's offensive line, not great against the pass rush, right? I'm not saying that USC needs to run the ball a specific number of times or hit a certain number of yards that is going to say, all right, USC is going to win this game if they do that. But I will say, if Lincoln Riley will stay married to the run game, I think that will counteract Nebraska's defense. Nebraska's got to now take into account USC's quarterback, who can use his legs. We'll see if he does. But I wanted to compare USC to Indiana, undefeated Indiana. When Indiana and Nebraska played a few weeks ago, middle of October, the Hoosiers, just dominated Nebraska, and they did it with their backup quarterback. And it's because they ran the ball. Indiana's head coach, Curt Cignetti, he turned to the run game when their starting quarterback had to stand on the sidelines in the second half. He got injured. So what did Indiana do? They scored 5 touchdowns running the ball. Before that game, there's a reason I'm bringing this up. Before that game, Nebraska had not given up a rushing touchdown. Indiana said, you know what, in the second half, we're going to do what we have to do. But what happens? Indiana used a balanced offense. And they were doing it with a backup quarterback in the second half of the game. And they were doing it at home. So there's the similarities. USC is going to start the game with their backup quarterback, who's now the new starter, at home. We know USC needs to run the ball, and they need to be successful running the ball to have the best chance to win this game. So what did Indiana do? They ran the ball 33 times, 215 yards on the ground. Remember, Nebraska gives up an average of 102 yards per game. They only passed the ball 30 times. Those 30 pass attempts, they still threw it for 280 yards. 189 of those came in the first half. So you can see the adjustment that they made from the first 30 minutes to the second 30 minutes. They just said, you know what? We're going to run the ball. And you're not going to stop us. I would love USC to play with that mentality Saturday against Nebraska. One of the things to consider also is Nebraska, they had to take into consideration Indiana's backup quarterback. He's not a big runner, but he used his legs just enough, just enough in that game that he kept Nebraska off balance. He had a couple of rushes for 21 yards. 2 weeks ago, when Nebraska hosted UCLA, UCLA didn't run the ball incredibly well, but their quarterback, he busted out a 57-yard touchdown run. I think Jayden Maiava is a more athletic version of Ethan Garbers. Bigger, stronger, faster. So on the opposite side of the ball, be balanced, but lean towards the run. Lean into it. If you're going to have 65 plays on offense, let's go 35 to 40 on the run, the balance throwing the ball. Defensively, I've been saying it all season. USC needs to get more production with their pass rush, specifically up front, specifically from their defensive ends. They need to go make the true freshman quarterback for the Cornhuskers, Dylan Raiola. They need to make him wish he wore his brown pants. Scare the bejesus out of him. All season long. I mean, I'm not making this up. The stats prove it out. Go look at it. USC's defensive ends, their edge rushers, they haven't done a whole lot. They're getting a little bit better as the season goes along. Sam Green, he's been a spark these last few games. You're starting to see the potential with Cameron Fountain. But man, wouldn't it be great if Braylon Shelby, Jameel Muhammad, if those guys can, get a couple sacks each? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because Nebraska, they're not the greatest. We complain about USC's pass protection. Nebraska's not great. They rank somewhere in the 90s. Right? In fact, they're number 95 in the country in sacks allowed. Minnesota, Washington, a couple of teams that USC's played recently, they rank in the 90s also. USC got just one sack combined in those two games. So I don't know. Maybe because they're playing at home, that'll help. Maybe, hopefully. Those games at Minnesota and Washington, they were on the road. Dylan Raiola is a true freshman. He's playing on the road. That's an uncomfortable situation for a true freshman, usually. Lincoln Riley recruited him hard. He wanted him in the program. I'll be honest, I'm not sure Dylan really fits what Lincoln Riley likes to do. He's not he can scramble. He can use his legs. He's not a big scrambler. He's only taken off a few times this year. And I don't anticipate him really using his legs in this game. He was dealing with a back injury. I don't know how much you want to expose him to getting hit. So we'll see what happens there. Basically, D'Anton Lynn's defense, they need to get inside Dylan Raiola's grill. Just get in his face. Frustrate the hell out of him. He's got some skills. Don't get me wrong. Big arm. Can put the ball where he wants to put it. He can make every type of throw you want your quarterback to make. With that said, over these last 4 games, he hasn't thrown for more than 230 yards in one of those games. And he's got 1 touchdown, and he's thrown 6 interceptions in the last 4 games. If Nebraska cannot get their running game going against USC's defense, USC's chances of winning goes up significantly. I know they opened up as an 8.5-point favorite, and they're still favored. Nebraska ranks outside of the top 100 nationally in both yards per game and yards per carry running the ball. USC needs to make sure Nebraska doesn't improve on that when they visit the Coliseum. I mean, you would think a team like Nebraska, who wants to be, they want to be physical up front, that's not going to get it done, especially when you got a freshman quarterback. Last year, Nebraska was a really good running team. They haven't been able to run the ball with any type of success in 2024. I think this game gets settled in the second half. I think it's going to be whoever makes the adjustment. Because if my everydayers, if you watched yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, I brought up the fact that Matt Rhule, Nebraska's head coach, he just recently, in the last few weeks, added Dana Holgerson. He first brought him on as an offensive consultant. Well, he's going to be calling up the offense and calling the plays when Nebraska visits this Saturday. So it's going to be interesting to see, how Nebraska comes out offensively, and will USC's defense be able to adjust? That's going to be the key. So USC run the ball, USC stop the run, and make sure you make the proper adjustments. It's going to be one of those games where you have to kind of see what Nebraska's doing differently and then just shut it down in the second half. If USC can do those few things, they will beat Nebraska. Freshman quarterback on the road, coming off an injury. USC needs this victory bad. They want any chance of going to a bowl game. You do not want to go into the UCLA and Notre Dame games riding a 2-game losing streak, having to win both just to get bowl eligible. Yikes. Two good things come out of Nebraska: football and Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at just $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners, you're going to get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchase may apply. I'm going to read a quote to you. They're as talented as a team and roster as there is. They've got 6'3" corners. They've got length, power. They can rush the passer. They'll play man, overload the box, and force you to have to throw against big, long guys who are tremendously talented. Who's he talking about? Coach Lynn's done a nice job, there, and we're going to have to play at our best, end quote. That's Coach Matt Rhule throwing the compliment at D'Anton Lynn's defense. I would say ease up a little bit on how good USC's roster, how good it really is. That's not a knock on USC's players. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But the way Coach Rhule was describing it, you would think you're playing against Georgia or Alabama. It's not the case. That's just a big old scoop of coach speak. Yes, USC's cornerbacks are tall. Yes, they are rangy. But USC's best cornerback, Jalen Smith, he isn't 6'3". Probably closer to 6'1", 6'2". He might be USC's best defensive player this year. I was having that conversation with somebody earlier on the phone today. USC's usual starting cornerback, Jacoby Covington, who is 6'3", he's been on rehab island more than he's been on an island playing defense. On Thursday, when I spoke to Coach Riley via Zoom in our media call, he did say that he anticipates both Jacoby and Kamari at least being partially available this Saturday, which means they're playing. And while, yeah, it's also true, Coach Rhule said that, USC can rush the passer. USC hasn't been very good at that. I just talked about that in the first segment. A little bit of hyperbole there. But I think I see Coach Rhule working here, getting out ahead of the game, so to speak. He's getting those post-game excuses out there just in case. Just in case USC's pass rush gets to Dylan Raiola. And the Trojan secondary maybe gets a couple of interceptions. I mean, I suppose at some point this season, all that talent, that the other coaching staffs keep bragging about, talking about that USC has, it's going to show itself to the Trojan fans, right? I mean, all those trained eyes see it. And again, USC does have some very talented players on the roster. And yes, the defense has played so much better. But I'm just trying to be honest here. These aren't the 85 Bears. And yes, they're only giving up 22 points per game. But they still have some breakdowns at some inopportune times. That's all I'm saying. But they are a very good defense. So in that respect, yes, Coach Rhule is correct. He also talked about Coach Riley and the offense that they're going up against. Quote, he's the best that there is in my mind. Anytime you play against Coach Riley, one of the great, great offensive masterminds in football, you have to first stop the run. There was a dramatic pause there for a reason. I'm thinking, what game film was he watching in 2024? Lincoln Riley this year has not been the, finger quote, stop the run or else guy. That's not what we have not seen that. Maybe Coach Rhule is talking about Lincoln Riley's past. For instance, Jalen Hurts, in his 1 year with Coach Riley at Oklahoma, he left Alabama, came to Oklahoma, and he turned into a really good quarterback. And now he's just tearing up the NFL. Coach Rhule talked about that. He said he can see Coach Riley using Jayden Maiava on Saturday in a similar way that he used Jalen Hurts back in Norman, Oklahoma. Quote, they're running power and counter and gap type schemes to one side and pulling the ball, and the quarterback can run it or throw to a guy on the perimeter. So now as a defense, you're having to defend the counter and the tackle trap and all these plays they run, plus the opportunity for the quarterback to run because he's a dual threat player. So there's some more challenges for us this week on defense. Maiava throws an elite deep ball and is an elite player. There's a reason everyone wanted him in the transfer portal last year, and now he's getting his opportunity. All right. Very complimentary. That's what coaches do. A lot of coach speak. Always fluff up the positive. Not just for USC fan base, but just to make sure his team, his players, stay focused on the prize, know that they're going up against some, bigger quotes, talented players, a talented roster. So since Jayden Maiava is all that and a bag of chips, I guess on Saturday, we're going to find out if Coach Riley was being loyal to Miller Moss, stubborn because he didn't want to admit he was at fault and chose the wrong quarterback, or is he just stupid? I don't think Lincoln Riley is stupid. Especially, if Jayden Maiava comes out and looks like Jalen Hurts on Saturday, Coach Riley's going to have to get up there and say, all right, look, he had a great game. He'll have to explain why he waited 9 games. Everyone's going to be excited about the future and the possibilities, but the question will remain, why did it take 9 games and a 4-5 record to make the change? Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need, all in one place, to place your live bets. You can check out live play-by-play action, check out the stats, everything all in one place. Just visit FanDuel.com. Join today. You're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. It's that easy. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. You know what time it is. It's time for my Friday rant. It's been a long week. USC has not had a good week of recruiting. In fact, they lost another commitment, Shamar Arno. He was coming along with Julian Lewis, who, by the way, Julian's still committed to USC, but Shamar Arno, the defensive back from the same high school, Carrollton, he's no longer committed to USC. He's now committed to Auburn. Good luck, young man. I hope you have a great college career. My rant is about this, and to the high school recruits, to the parents listening, okay? This is not personal. I'm not talking to any specific individual or parent, family member, whatever, guardian, mentor. But stop biting the hand that feeds you. Stop killing the game of college football. Because I'll tell you what, before you know it, the fans are going to stop telling you how good you are. And they can't wait to see you play for USC or whatever program. Because all they care about, all they see right now is you, and I'm using the term you in the ubiquitous sense, in just a general sense. All they see is high school recruits seeing is how much money you can get. That's all they care about. I know, look, I'm talking in generalities. But the way some of you are enjoying the recruiting process right now, it's pushing people away. Like I said, the way you're enjoying the recruiting process. The college football coaches aren't enjoying it. The fans sure as heck aren't enjoying it. All they see are a bunch of high school kids who are getting really greedy. And if it's not the kids, it's the parents. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I am cool with players getting paid. But NIL was not created to start handing out free agency signing bonuses to high school teenagers before they played a down of college football. That's not the intent of what it was created for. But look, there comes a point where I'm starting to question a player's integrity. Don't use the line that I'm committing to my dream school, and then 2-3 months later, you're committing to a bag of cash. Because that's what's happening. Just be honest about it, and I'll respect you more. I mean, how many times is a player going to commit and then start playing the bidding wars game? I asked Coach Riley about this process and how the recruits are playing schools off of one another for better NIL deals. I asked how he would change things. My suggestion is a simple one. Get rid of the signing periods. If you're ready to commit to a coach, awesome. Do not say the word commitment. Here's the pen. Here's the financial aid paperwork, the contract. Sign here. Now you're committed. Now you're locked in. I don't want to hear the words. I want to see the words. I want to see your name. signature, blue or black ink. Coach Riley said this. A kid says, well, I was offered this. You have no way of verifying that. You have no way to know if it's true. We've had examples where it probably is true. We've had plenty where we found out that it wasn't true at all. So Coach Riley talked about, how they've had the discussions about making NIL offers public. He thinks that's one way to get everything out in the open for transparency purposes, to eliminate some of the smoke and mirrors, as he put it. He said everyone is living in the between right now, as far as recruiting is concerned. But they have to embrace it and keep making good decisions for the program. So I need someone to explain this to me. Okay? Maybe I'm the dumb one here. Won't be the first time someone's called me dumb. Hit me up in the comments section. Give me your thoughts on this. Someone explain to me, when did the idea for NIL, a reward for what you've done in college, turn into a recruiting negotiation seminar with a teenager? Well, I'm not a fan of what Dylan Stewart, the defensive end over at South Carolina, is doing, the freshman, but I get it. He came into college as a highly rated player. He got a really nice NIL package. He's proving he's worth more. So he's negotiating now to get that bag for next year, which means it'll probably get renegotiated again after next year. Again, I'm not a fan of it. I get it. But at least he said, look, this is what I could do. And I'll get better as I get older. Pay me. But I'll tell you what, these $1 million deals for players that haven't done squat, who haven't played a down of college football. I mean, look, I talked about the rumored Hayden Lowe deal on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. $2.5 million over 3 years. But did you hear about the most recent one? Did you hear about the Bryce Underwood sweepstakes, the 5-star quarterback who's committed to LSU? All of a sudden, Michigan's collective, which, by the way, he's from Michigan, Bryce Underwood, they're willing to go all in. They're willing to give, hey, what if we offer you $10.5 million for 4 years? Will you flip your commitment? I'm sorry. Talk to me. Isn't that just a little ridiculous? $10.5 million guaranteed over 4 years, and he's never played a down in college? It seems like every day a story breaks like this, and there's just another fan out there throwing up their hands and saying, I'm done. I give up. I can't do this anymore. The only thing worse are the fans. The only thing worse than the fans saying, I'm done with this, are the ones who live in La La Land, who think money grows on trees, who just say, why can't USC or House of Victory just write the check? Whatever it costs, make it happen. How come USC's rich alumni donors aren't paying for this? Those same people who say it should just be done, they never say how much they've donated. They just expect some millionaire, multimillionaire, to scratch off a check. For a high school player? Are you kidding me? They might do that for a player who's proven himself for a year or two in college. They want to see a return on their investment. But asking somebody just to write a $5 million check for a high school stud who may or may not turn out in college, people don't make money by throwing it away. All right, that's my rant. I'm done. I'm sure I'll rant about this subject again because it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. This isn't just about USC anymore. This is about the system that's just completely broken. And it's the high school kids, the recruits. Again, it's not personal, but the more you keep doing this, the more you're going to kill the game. Eventually, the well's going to dry up. The donors, they're going to say, dude, you haven't done anything yet. Why should I give you that money? All right, I'll be back after the Nebraska game at some point. I'll have my instant reaction. Hopefully, I'm in a good mood. Hopefully I'm in a good mood. I cannot see USC going 4-6. Can't see that happening. Till then, everyone, you know what to do.